Combat aired on ABC from 1962 to 1967 and made household names of 8 men. Today, 6 of those names sit on headstones. One died at age 53 in a helicopter accident the whole country watched. The other deaths were quieter. The final one was the worst one. Sergeant Chip Saunders was the man with the cigarette in his mouth and the eyes that never stopped scanning. When Saunders gave an order, the whole squad shifted. Vic Morrow played him for 5 seasons. Born in the Bronx in February of 1929 to Russian Jewish immigrants, Morrow dropped out of high school at 17 to join the Navy. He finished his diploma at night school after his discharge and enrolled in pre-law at Florida Southern College on the GI Bill before acting, pulled him into Paul Mann's New York Actors Workshop, where he drove taxis to pay for classes. Blackboard Jungle made him a star at 25. He went on strike at the start of Combat's second season, demanding better treatment and more screen time. The strike worked, and his new contract paid roughly $5,000 a week, about $52,000 a week in today's money, placing him among television's highest-paid performers of 1963. Executive producer Selig Seligman, who ran Selmur Productions for ABC, kept the back-end syndication revenue when Combat began airing in roughly 20 foreign countries. Morrow saw none of that money. His wife Barbara Turner left him in 1964 after an affair with Combat director Robert Altman. The divorce broke him. He became estranged from his 2 young daughters, Carrie Ann at 6 and Jennifer Lee at 2. Jennifer would grow up to become the actress Jennifer Jason Leigh, and she changed her last name as soon as she was able. By 1982, he was 53 and broke. John Landis cast him in Twilight Zone, the movie at a fee of about $40,000. At 2:20 in the morning on July 23rd, at Indian Dunes Ranch in Valencia, California, Morrow was carrying 2 Vietnamese child actors across a simulated rice paddy when pyrotechnics detonated too close to a low-flying helicopter. The tail rotor failed. Its main blade decapitated Morrow and 7-year-old Micah Din Lei. 6-year-old Renee Shin Yi Chen was crushed beneath the wreckage. Both children had been hired off the books to dodge California child labor laws, a cost-saving choice by the production. Carrie Ann received the $1 million estate. Jennifer received exactly $100. Carrie wrote the epitaph above his grave at Hillside Memorial Park in Culver City, California, Mount Olive Section, Block 5. The full text reads, "I loved him as Dad. To everyone else, he was Vic." Sergeant Saunders was the man who got everyone home. Vic Morrow was the man who died because somebody on a movie set was trying to save money on a reshoot. 2. PFC. William G. Kirby was the squad's malcontent, the loudmouth from Chicago who griped about every order and then ran straight at the gunfire when it mattered. By the end of the run, Kirby had become the 3rd lead of the show. Jack Hogan played him in 111 episodes. Hogan was born Richard Roland Benson, Jr. in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in November of 1929. At the age of 16, he earned his pilot's license. After 2 years of architecture at the University of North Carolina, he dropped out, joined the U.S. Air Force, and spent 4 years as a staff sergeant in Japan during the Korean War. Following his discharge, he studied at the American Theater Wing in New York, moved to Hollywood, worked as a lifeguard at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and took classes at the Pasadena Playhouse. On Combat, Hogan was supporting cast, never one of the 2 alternating leads. Supporting players on hour-long dramas in the early 1960s typically earned somewhere between $750 and $1,500 per episode, a fraction of Morrow's $5,000 a week deal. When ABC canceled the show in 1967, a cancellation driven partly by the network's reluctance to renegotiate the cast's contracts upward as the show moved into color production, Hogan never landed another regular series. Through the 1970s, he picked up guest spots on Adam 12 and Hawaii 5-0. Eventually, he moved off-camera entirely, serving as casting director on Magnum, PB from 1981 to 1983, choosing actors for roles he might once have wanted to play himself. He married twice. The longer marriage was to Joyce Nisery, a former Playboy playmate, from 1967 to 1980. They had a son named West, who would one day make the phone call to Variety to confirm his father's death. That call came on December 6, 2023. Hogan died of natural causes at his home on Bainbridge Island in the Puget Sound, surrounded by his family. He was 94. By that point, he had been retired for years, walked away from Hollywood, lived quietly, watched the saltwater from his window. His remains were not buried where he died. Bainbridge Island sent him home. He rests now at Old Chapel Hill Cemetery in Chapel Hill, Orange County, North Carolina. The same small university town he had left almost 75 years earlier to fly planes for the Air Force in Japan. PFC Kirby was the Chicago soldier who griped about going anywhere. Jack Hogan was the boy from Chapel Hill who flew planes before he could legally drink, served 4 years in Japan, spent 5 decades in Hollywood, and went home to his hometown for good. 3. The man who played Private Braddock in the first season of Combat walked away from the show at the end of that year because Las Vegas was paying him more. His name was Shecky Greene, and by the time he played a combat soldier at the age of 36, Elvis Presley had already opened for him. Born Fred Sheldon Greenfield in Chicago, in April of 1926 to Jewish parents, Shecky served in the U.S. Navy during the Second World War, then enrolled at Wright Junior College intending to become a physical education teacher. A summer job outside Milwaukee pulled him into comedy with a partner named Sammy Shore. By 1954, he was opening for Dorothy Shay at the New Frontier in Las Vegas. 2 years later, he was headlining, and a young singer named Elvis Presley was his opening act. Combat originally billed Shecky as the third star of the show alongside Morrow and Jason. 8 first-season episodes followed, including the comedy episode The Prisoner, in which Braddock impersonates a captured American colonel after the Germans mistake him for an officer. He left after that season because his Vegas income was crushing whatever the network television check looked like in 1962. A headliner at the Tropicana through the late 1950s could pull tens of thousands of dollars a week in lounge gross, many multiples of what a supporting role on an ABC drama paid. He chose the room with the audience that came to see him by name. His longest marriage was to Marie Musso, beginning in 1985 and lasting 41 years until his death. After he passed, Marie told the Las Vegas Review-Journal, "It was fun. He always made humor out of whatever he could. He made you laugh and feel good. It was a happy time." Shecky died at home in Henderson, Nevada, in the early morning hours of December 31, 2023, at the age of 97. Per family wishes, no public memorial was held. He was buried at Southern Nevada Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Boulder City, Nevada, in honor of his Navy service during the Second World War. Frank Sinatra had once saved him from a beating by 5 men at the Fontainebleau in Miami. Sinatra is gone too now, and Shecky lies a 40-minute drive from the strip he ran for 70 years. Private Braddock was the Chicago cab driver who got captured by accident. Shecky Greene was a Chicago kid who got famous on his own terms and walked away from a network television contract because he already had a better show across town. The next man on this call sheet was an Olympic team captain who never got to race. 4. 5 days before the 1948 Winter Olympics opened at St. Moritz, Switzerland, the captain of the Canadian Olympic ski team broke his leg during a practice run. He watched the games from a hospital bed and never raced. His name was Pierre Jalbert, and 14 years later he would be cast as Kahe on Combat. Pierre was born in Quebec City in January of 1925, the son of a newspaperman. He attended Laval University, served in the university's Royal Canadian Air Cadets during the Second World War, and won both the junior and senior Canadian national ski championships before being named Olympic captain at the age of 23. The broken leg ended the racing career he was supposed to have. After the Olympics, he worked briefly with the National Film Board of Canada, taught skiing at Sun Valley, Idaho, and in 1952 moved to Hollywood looking for any kind of work he could find. What he found was a cutting room. MGM hired him as a film and dialogue editor, and by the time he was 40, he had cut Blackboard Jungle, Bad Day at Black Rock, An American in Paris, Ben-Hur, and Mutiny on the Bounty. He had been a working studio editor for nearly a decade before anyone asked him to act. His wife Joy's agent suggested he audition for the role of a French-speaking Cajun GY on a new ABC war drama. Kajay was supporting cast, and Jalbert's per-episode rate would have fallen in the same $750 to $1,500 range as Hogan and the rest of the squad. Acting made him recognizable. Acting did not make him rich. After combat was canceled in 1967, the acting offers thinned out within 3 years. Jalbert had a fallback the others did not. He walked back into the cutting room at Paramount. For the next 2 decades, he was a sound editor and ADR specialist on Grease, The Concorde, Bloodline, the miniseries Shogun, which earned him an Emmy nomination for sound editing in 1981, and The Godfather. He cut the climactic baptism intercut sequence at the end of Coppola's film. The most famous edit in the history of American cinema was made by the man who used to take the point for Sergeant Saunders. His wife of 53 years was the former actress and ballerina Joy Lee. The marriage lasted from before combat began to the day he died. He loved her, woodworking, masonry, French history, Eastern philosophy, and good wine in roughly that order. On his 89th birthday, January 9, 2014, Pierre suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized in Los Angeles. He died 13 days later from complications. His memorial service was held at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. The family asked that donations be made to the Motion Picture and Television Fund in lieu of flowers. Kajay was the soldier the squad sent forward when the danger was real. Pierre Jalbert was the Olympic captain who never got to ski his race, and who spent the next 66 years quietly making everyone else's race look better. If Pierre's broken leg 5 days before the Olympics hit you the way it hit me, drop a comment below telling us which combat castmate's story surprised you most. We read everyone. 5. The youngest member of the squad now teaches theater, English, and American literature at a Catholic high school in Mission Hills, California. Tom Lowell is 85 years old and he is still showing kids how to find their cues. Lowell was born Lowell W. Thomas in Philadelphia in January of 1941. His family moved to California in the late 1940s and settled in Sacramento. His father taught for 30 years as head of the theater department at California State University, Sacramento. His mother taught English and speech at El Camino High School, the same school Tom would later graduate from. A small, uncredited role as Private Bobby Lembeck in The Manchurian Candidate got him noticed in 1962. He believed that film was what got him the role of Billy Nelson on Combat. On screen, Billy Nelson was the corn-fed, all-American baby of the squad, the kid who always lost his grenade pin in the dirt, who took a bullet because he idolized the wrong person, who needed Little John to look out for him. Lowell was 21 years old the day the show began. He was never signed to a long-term contract on Combat. As recurring cast, he fell into the same supporting cast scale as Jalbert and Hogan, somewhere between $750 and $1,500 per episode. 31 episodes followed across 3 seasons. At the end of Season 3, Walt Disney Studios offered him a 4-picture contract, 2 films per year for 2 years, at Disney scale, which for a supporting young player in the mid-1960s would have paid roughly $1,500 to $3,000 per week of production. Lowell took the deal and left Combat. He made That Darn Cat, The Gnome Mobile, The Boatniks, and Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Then the offers stopped. In his own words, star one day, schlub the next. 3 sons came from his first marriage to Beverly Ann Benedict. His wife of nearly 40 years is Sharon Jean Pace, whom he married in July of 1986. Retirement from acting came in 1999, and Lowell became theater director at Bishop Alamany High School in Mission Hills. He has been there ever since. Every year, another class of teenagers learns how to stand on a stage from a man who once played the kid who could not stop dropping his rifle. Billy Nelson was the boy who needed somebody else to find his lost grenade pin in the dirt. Tom Lowell is the man who has spent the last 26 years finding things for teenagers. Their lines, their light cues, their first standing ovations. 6. He was 6'6" and gentle. Private Little John was the farm boy from somewhere quiet, the man who looked after Billy Nelson, the soldier whose size suggested he should be terrifying and whose actual presence made him the kindest face on the call sheet. The gossip columnist Luella Parsons once called him Hollywood's most gentle giant. His name was Dick Peabody. Peabody was born in Kansas City, Missouri, in April of 1925. Both his parents were teachers. His father also wrote for the motion picture trade paper Box Office. At 17, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy and served as an electronic technician until 1945. After his discharge, he studied electrical engineering at Kansas City Junior College and then at the University of Kansas City on the GI Bill before switching to acting, because, in his own words, he wanted fame and attention. He produced television commercials, anchored a TV news broadcast, hosted a radio talk show in Denver, and was working in Hollywood for less than 48 hours when director Robert Altman recommended him for Combat. The role came within 2 days of his arrival in town. As a supporting cast member on Combat, Peabody worked at the same scale as Hogan, Jalbert, and Lowell, probably between $750 and $1,500 per episode at the start of the run. When ABC pulled the plug in 1967, he picked up 2 Burt Kennedy westerns in 1969, both directed by men who had worked on the show, and then the major film offers thinned out. Over 120 television credits filled his career, but he never broke through to leading man status. By the late 1980s, he had moved with his wife, Tina, to the small gold rush mountain town of Camino in El Dorado County, California, where he wrote a weekly column called Peabody's Place for the Placerville Mountain Democrat, circulation in the low thousands. The gentle giant from Combat spent his last decade writing for the people who lived up the hill from him. His wife, Tina, was a former model. She wrote a song called Young Sarge that Dick recorded in 1965. She was at his side for every year of the marriage, including the final one. He died at home in Camino on December 27, 1999, at the age of 74. The cause was prostate cancer. His close friend and Combat castmate Rick Jason confirmed the news to the Associated Press, a phone call Jason would still be making for less than another year. Peabody was cremated. His ashes were given to Tina. He is wherever she keeps him. Little John was the gentle giant who watched out for the youngest member of the squad. Dick Peabody was the Navy electronics technician who quit Hollywood to write 800-word columns for the people who lived up his mountain. If you have not already, subscribe to this channel, because the next man on this call sheet quit Hollywood entirely to fly Falcon jets across 2 continents and manage a Florida citrus grove. 7. There is a 91-year-old man in Florida who currently flies a Dassault Falcon jet for a family-owned corporation and manages a 20-acre citrus grove on the side. He played Doc on Combat for 66 episodes and was Emmy-nominated for the role in 1964. His name is Conlan Carter, and he walked away from acting 40 years ago to spend the rest of his life in a cockpit. Chester Conlan Carter was born in Center Ridge, Arkansas, population somewhere under 100, on October 3, 1934. After Southeast Missouri State University and a stint in the U.S. Air Force during the post-Korean War era, he arrived in Hollywood in the late 1950s. From 1960 to 1962, he played C.E. Carruthers on the ABC legal drama The Law and Mr. Jones, opposite James Whitmore. Combat hired him in Season 2 as the new Doc, replacing Stephen Rogers, who had played the original medic in Season 1. The producers wanted a different presence. Carter gave them a soft Arkansas calm, the voice of reason in firefights that had no reason in them. Across 66 episodes, he patched up the men who were not as lucky as he was. His Combat pay was at the same supporting cast scale as the rest of the squad, between $750 and $1,500 per episode. The Emmy nomination in 1964 for The Hostages did not translate into a lead role. When ABC canceled the show in 1967, partly to avoid renegotiating everyone's contracts upward, Carter continued in television guest spots on Hawaii Five-0, Dr. Kildare, and others, until his final acting credit, a 1986 episode of MacGyver, where he played Police Chief Ed Train. Then he did something almost no one else on this call sheet did. He quit Hollywood entirely. A commercial pilot's license came first. Oil exploration flights in Nigeria came in 1976. Airborne electronic surveillance for Beach Aerospace came in 1985. Florida came after that, with his second wife Betty Murphy, his high school sweetheart, whom he remarried in 1989 after a long first marriage to Patricia Ann Musser ended in 1971. He has 4 children. He flies the Falcon, He manages the orange trees. He does not give interviews. Doc was the man who ran toward the wounded. Conlan Carter ran the opposite direction, out of Hollywood, into a cockpit, into a citrus grove where the only thing that interrupts the silence is the oranges falling off the trees. 8. The man who alternated as the lead of combat with Vic Morrow for 152 episodes spoke 4 languages. He sculpted, painted, played guitar, hunted, photographed wildlife, bred tropical fish, and firmly believed in reincarnation. His name was Rick Jason, and few actors of his era lived a fuller life off-camera than he did on it. Born Richard Jacobson in New York City on May 21, 1923, the only child of a Jewish stockbroker and a wealthy mother, he later described himself as second-generation nouveau riche. 8 prep schools expelled him before he graduated from Rhodes in Manhattan. His father bought him a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. He sold the seat and enlisted in the Army Air Corps in 1943. After the war, he attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts on the GI Bill. While sitting in the audience at a New York play, he was spotted by Hume Cronin, who cast him in the 1950 Broadway production Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, opposite Frederick March. The play ran 37 performances at the Broadhurst Theater. Jason's debut earned him the Theatre World Award at 27. 4 studios offered him contracts. Columbia got him. On Combat, he was a co-lead. The cultural weight of the show always sat on Morrow's shoulders. The Emmy nomination went to Morrow. The strike that produced the $5,000 weekly contract was Morrow's strike, and the show was billed Morrow first. Jason's deal was comparable but quieter. He played Lieutenant Gil Hanley as cool, calm, 6'4" of measured authority, the show's officer-class voice in a way that allowed Morrow to play the grunt-class voice. Through the late 1960s and early 1970s, he flew to Vietnam on USO tours to visit American troops on his own time. Aria Allen was the first of 5 wives, from 1950 to 1962. Shirley Johnston followed for a few months that same year. Jutta Parr, a former Miss Germany, took the place after that from 1962 to 1964. Pat Nelson came next, from 1968 to 1970. In 1983, at the age of 60, he married Cindy. They stayed married for the next 17 years. She was the one. After retiring from screen acting in 1989, he ran a 4,000-square-foot wine storage facility called the Wine Locker, where collectors could keep their bottles at optimal temperature. Voiceover commercials kept him busy in the years between. In 1998, he invited 50 combat fans to his and Cindy's Moore Park home for a buffet lunch and poured them wine personally. July of 2000 brought him his autobiography titled Scrapbooks of My Mind, a Hollywood autobiography. Early October took him to Las Vegas for the Combat Recon 2000 fan convention. For 3 days he signed autographs, stayed after hours, saw his castmates, and embraced the people who had loved his show for nearly 40 years. Then he flew home to Moore Park. 1 week after the convention, on October 16, 2000, at his home in Moore Park, California, Rick Jason died. He was 77. His wife Cindy found him the next morning. He left no note. The Ventura County coroner ruled the death a suicide. Authorities said only that he had been despondent over unspecified personal matters. No one, not Cindy, not his castmates, not the fans, has ever publicly understood why. A private memorial service was held at his Moore Park home on Sunday, October 22nd. His ashes were interred at Hollywood Forever Cemetery on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood, in the Cathedral Mausoleum, Valentino Shrine Area, Tier 5, the same mausoleum that holds Rudolph Valentino, Peter Lorre, and Tyrone Power. Rick Jason firmly believed in reincarnation. Wherever he is now, those of us who watched him every Tuesday night hope it is somewhere quiet and somewhere he is at peace. Lieutenant Hanley led the platoon for 5 seasons. Rick Jason had a fuller life than most actors ever get to live. A Theatre World Award at 27, 5 marriages culminating in 17 years with the right woman, 4 languages, an autobiography finished 3 months before the end, and a final embrace with his squad in Las Vegas exactly 7 days before he was gone. 6 men are buried now, in Culver City, Boulder City, Hollywood, Glendale, North Carolina, and wherever Tina Peabody keeps Dick. 2 still walk in Mission Hills and a Florida Grove.